Hi everyone, so the expansion PTR is live. I've been blasting last night, going pretty ham, trying to level a new character that you can see here. This is my rogue, and leveled it from fresh level 1, basically a season start run, up to Paragon 74. So if you have seen that, there's a huge rework in how levels and Paragons work in this game. TLDR, it's going to be very similar to Diablo 3, where you have character levels up to 60, and then you have Paragon levels up to 300. Now what they do is relatively unchanged, but you get more points of each. And well, that's kind of like what this looks like here. So we have this character here. I've just been kind of progressing. And yeah, this was actually a victimized rogue that I played here. Actually, it turns out to be very powerful. So currently I am almost ready to go into Torment 3, which is the second to last difficulty. There's Torment 4 after that. And then we are effectively done with the progression, I feel. And I want to talk about that a little bit. So I did a little write-up here, actually something that I sent to the devs already. It's not really bullet points because I wanted to explain a few things. But we have only like five points here that I want to go through in this video. Just for my first impressions of what it feels like to play on this new world, basically, of Diablo 3.5. Here's also like some of the footage from like yesterday, so you also see to get a bit of an idea of how long it takes to get here. I was doing a relatively chill run, I would say. I was not like trying to like omega rush and do like the most efficient stuff all the time and just go in with like the meta build and that's it. I was experimenting a lot. I was trying the new rogue skill a little bit. I was looking at, you know, various little things that have changed. I was looking at the paragons and so on, because a lot of stuff has been tweaked a bit. If I was going to do an actual speed run, I would probably be here probably 2 hours earlier or something like that. And you see the timer here, this is at 6.5 hours. I'm doing like a tier 41 pit, which is relatively close to unlocking Torment 3. It'll be tier 50. And okay, outside of the boss fights being a bit slow right now for my setup, I'm actually kind of pumping and blasting everything down very easily here. You see the numbers are also squished, so I'm doing like 50k crits, 100k crits. It will definitely go way up later on. Like there is this stat squish where especially weapon damage has been reduced by, I don't know, a few times, I don't know, times 5 or something. So you should generally see lower damage numbers. However, Blizzard has also power crept the game pretty hard, and this you get a lot more main start, and the main start does more. We get the glyphs, they go higher, you can get the legendary effects on the glyphs. So in general, I would actually expect our DPS numbers to rise instead of go down, even though we have the stat squish, which is kind of funny outcome. And what I do here right now is, yeah, not really high-end stuff at all. And yeah, this kind of worries me that I'm nearly in the second to last difficulty, having basically no issues at all. My resistances aren't kept, my armor are not kept. I don't even have Umber's aspect on my setup right now. Like I'm missing the main defensive aspect of the entire rogue class, and I'm kind of just cruising through this stuff here. So this is what this looks like. I mean, Victimized Rogue is probably one of the better builds out there, okay, and not everyone is going to have such an easy time, but I kind of feel like the progression, like longevity, might be lacking a little bit. So this is kind of what I see here. I also only have like, you know, I think 2 Paragon bots attached and not 4. I have like 2 glyphs at this point or something instead of 5. So yeah, it's there's a lot more room to grow just from kind of playing the game without even like necessarily getting better loot, necessarily farming like mythic items or anything like that. So I kind of feel like there needs to be a bit more of a tuning pass here at least in order to make this a bit more exciting and challenging. I might also just say this, you know, as I mentioned, with like just from the perspective of a very strong build. This is obviously a very good build. We're playing Rogue, which is like one of the best classes currently. And then we also have, you know, a bunch of really good builds on this class. So this might just be kind of a result of that. But I was not really even like preparing the setup exactly. This was just something I kind of pieced together on the fly. And this is not like super min-maxed, and I'm actually missing aspects and whatever. So yeah, there's you know, a lot of optimizations here that we can still do. So yeah, this was kind of like what I felt. In terms of leveling speed, as you see here, since I managed to hit Paragon 68 at like 6.5 hours, I think I reached level 60 at like around 4 hours or so. You know, I see this here, level 59, yeah, 420 hours or so. This can be done way faster, so it turns out that strongholds are actually really valuable, and you kind of want to do all 15 strongholds with your character because they give you basically 1 or 2 level ups each, depending on how far you are. So you can get a lot of the levels just from strongholds, and they are just very good at doing that. You just rush the objective, finish it. Currently there's also a bug that people are using where you can just like ring the bell on the strongholds repeatedly with some like party invite shenanigans, and you don't actually complete the stronghold, but you get the XP, so you can do it over and over. So there's some funny stuff like that. That used to be a thing in the past already, and now it came back. I'm not sure how that happened, but it was fixed, I think, at some point. But yeah, here we are. But yeah, it's also kind of interesting how, for example, we can play Nightmare Dungeons from level 1. So when I started this character, for example, here I was like level 10 or so, and then I think I opened like one Helltide chest and I got a sigil, and I was like, oh yeah, you can now do Nightmare Dungeons. So in the first difficulty, you can already go and do Nightmare Dungeons, which is kind of interesting. And I'm not sure exactly what is going on, but Nightmare Dungeons have some kind of weird like level scaling with the bonus XP that you're getting in there, I think. At least I did some quick tests on that, and it appears that the Nightmare Dungeon bonus is still there, but it might depend on which difficulty you're in or what level you are. I have to investigate that a bit further. They didn't seem like that crazy valuable compared to, for example, the Strongholds. Strongholds were just the thing to level. Helltide was also okay. I did that a bit early on, for example, and then I got a sigil, did a few Nightmare Dungeons, and then I did a bunch of Strongholds, and then eventually I kind of just hit level 60. So that's kind of how that goes. And yeah, a lot of people say, oh man, this seemed very fast. So level 60 max level, and you know, this is it. But it is not it, right? Because then comes the Paragon level. So I guess some people need to realize that, you know, you have just kind of like the intro with the character levels, and then comes the Paragon progression. And the Paragon progression is actually shared between your characters. So you can also, you know, you don't have to farm to level 300 on each character. You can get your first character in a season, you level, and then you get to, I don't know, Paragon 150, and then you make your next second character and you go to like 250, and then maybe you go back to your first character and finish the last 50 levels or something like that. So you can do that as you like, and then the next time you log into your other character, you can just like spend the points, and you're gonna be a bit stronger than before and so on. So that's kind of cool. But realistically, it seems like it's fairly easy to get to at least Paragon 200. So I think this is kind of the expectation here, where, for example, when I log in right now, they have converted my characters to Paragon 200, like my existing Eternal characters. So it seems like old level 100 is roughly Paragon 200 or something like that in terms of the total XP. And this means at 200 Paragons, you will have basically everything important online already. And after that, it's just kind of like, you know, very small stuff you kind of pick up all over the place. You know, a little bit of damage there, a little bit of armor here, maybe a rest cluster there or something like that. But you will have your 4 boards attached, or 5, I guess, in total, and your 5 glyphs. And you will have, you know, all the important rare clusters that give you res or life or something like that. All of that will be done by the time you have Paragon 200. So this means that you're not really missing out on much, even if you don't go all the way on Paragon 300. But yeah, it seems like the level progression is definitely a bit longer. It seems like the difficulty changes are not really difficult enough in my book. I think it should be imperative that when we have this difficulty system where higher difficulties are purely optional, like there is no real reason to go to Torment 4 over Torment 3 or to Torment 3 over Torment 2, for example. You can access exactly the same content, you can do exactly the same stuff. The main difference really is you get faster Paragon levels and you get a bit more ancestral loot and these kind of things. So there's kind of not a reason to kind of just push everyone into the highest difficulty, I think. And I really would hope that we're gonna get something like a Torment 5, like basically right away, or maybe just like make the gaps a bit larger between the Torment levels. So right now, for example, it's 15 pit tiers between each of the Torment levels, starting at 20, then 35, 50, 65. So maybe this could be just another 5 pit levels. So it starts at 20 and then 45 and then 70 and 95 or something like that. Just as an example, so the gaps could be larger or something like that. So there is like, you know, a bigger jump, and then it's like, it's, you know, bigger, like longer lasting progression, I feel. So that's maybe a bit missing here. Other than that though, I really like the new item system as well. So sacred items are gone, and there is only normal and ancestral. So normal items end at item power 750, and then ancestral have always exactly 800, and they always have at least one greater affix They can also roll a higher range of legendary aspects, so that feels really good. I really like the new ancestral system. It's a bit like ancient items from Diablo 3 basically, but they are also really rare. So compared to Diablo 3, where it's just like a flat 10% chance, it seems like this is scaling with the Torment level. So I was doing like mostly Torment 2 now, and I was finding, I think like 2 or 3, I think I found like 2 or 3 or so ancestral items as I progress to Torment 3 now, basically, all the way from Torment 1 to Torment 3. So you get them very rarely, so it makes them feel really good and special when you find them, and even when you find like a pretty suboptimal roll, you might just want to equip it, and then you're gonna kind of like work with what you got, which I kind of like doing. So that is cool, and then later on, of course, you're gonna try to get the better stats on your items, you're gonna try to get double GAs, you're gonna try to get the uniques later, and so on. So there is definitely a lot of stuff to get and a lot of stuff to do, and I think that feels really good. So that is definitely well done, I think, and I'm quite excited to see how this will feel when I progress more with this character and go all the way to Torment 4 and then grind Torment 4 and see how fast I can actually deck out my character. How long does it take to get to masterworking 12 out of 12 on all of your gear? But so far it is kind of nice that there is like this kind of slower paced item progression compared to currently, where I feel like, okay, you go and do some of the bosses, get your uniques, and you just kind of like farm them over and over, and this is about it. With this ancestral system, it will also ensure that, for example, we don't really have to look at that many items. So in the game currently right now, we just kind of sort out a lot of loot. We have this GA system, you see the stars, okay, at some point it's kind of like ignore everything that doesn't have a star. Realistically, in Season 5, we do get a lot of loot that you still want to look at until like very late stages. And with this new ancestral system, you just don't really get many ancestrals, and those will really only be the items you're going to look at after a little while. Once you have an ancestral in every slot, you're most likely not going back to running a non-ancestral item in that slot anymore. So those ancestral items are definitely strong enough for you to just use those, because not only do they have a greater affix and potentially higher legendary aspect that you can also like get into a codex later and you can use it on all of your gear, but you can only find the higher versions on the ancestrals. But also you can masterwork them higher to 12. So you can't masterwork an item that doesn't have ancestral tag to more than 4. And that's pretty important, because at some point you will have a lot of masterworking mods. They now drop from Nightmare Dungeons. You can just kind of get a lot of Opticide there. It seems to scale up relatively fast. I'm not sure about the cost of masterworking, how that scales yet. I haven't really tried to masterwork an item very high yet, but we'll see that soon, I guess. Overall, yeah, just the masterworking alone kind of makes it worth it to just go for the ancestral item, even if it, for example, only has 2 good stats instead of 3 good stats. Maybe one of them at least is like kind of okay, and you just kind of roll with it for a while until you get like a 3 out of 3 item and so on. So this is important. And also those ancestral items just come with higher stats because of the higher item power. So 800 usually means that most of the stats that you can find on these items are roughly 25% higher or so. And this even includes the implicits. So for example, I had boots that have 1.2 seconds evade cooldown reduction per attack that were 750 item power. And then the 800 item power will have the regular 1.5 seconds attack reduce evade cooldown. So it's kind of similar for that, and this kind of goes through like the entire system. So like all of the stats they can get, they're like roughly 25% higher or so on ancestral items. You definitely want to go for those. But yeah, I think overall they've done a relatively good job with like rescaling the entire game, and just like making this different difficulty settings so that there is actually some challenging content all throughout the leveling progression. You can go to the higher difficulties. Personally, I found I was not able to go to Penitent difficulty as early as I wanted. It only unlocks at level 50. So I guess this is supposedly just to make sure that people don't, choose the highest difficulty and get absolutely blasted immediately or something like that. But in my case, I was trying to do a season start imitation, and I didn't have any twin gear, I didn't really have tempers, I didn't have aspects, I had nothing. And I just went to Penitent at level 50 instantly. So it was not very easy, and there are definitely opportunities to die here. But overall, I feel like if I was playing an even better build, this would be no trouble at all. And if I was playing a twink with, some gear prepared or aspects prepared or even just tempers or anything, then this would be a cakewalk. So this was kind of my impression here. And at the very minimum, I think Penitent should unlock at level 35, because this is when you can use mythic items, for example. So if you are twinking anyway, then you should be able to at least jump Impenitent at level 35 with your mythics. Because other than that, yeah, it just kind of feels like there's gonna be zero challenge or like, you know, anything really. Anyway, I think that's it for what I got to share for now for my day 1 findings. There's obviously a lot of stuff to try on this PTR. I'm gonna be busy like all day, every day, blasting, and we haven't even seen the endgame stuff yet. There's no boosting, no runes, so I'm gonna be working on a lot of builds as well. I already have a lot on my Discord as well, in my Woody Builds channel, so for those people that are there, or you can find the link in the description, there are PTR builds, or expansion builds rather, that you can go check out and, you know, just, you know, try them out on a PTR, for example, once the boosting unlocks on Friday. So I'm definitely planning to do a lot of stuff on Rogue, since Spiritborn is not out yet. Spiritborn will be my main, at least for the launch. I'll be doing a lot of the Maxroll guides. And, well, also, if you look at what I'm doing with my Rogue here right now, and you think this is pretty good, well, then stay tuned for the Spiritborn, because this is nothing. But anyway, this is it for now for this video. And I'll have probably another update like this maybe tomorrow once I reach Torment 4, once I have done more with this character here, and we'll see how this will go. We're going to start trying some builds, maybe going to do another leveling run and see how I can do this on another class and so on. Maybe I'm just a bit spoiled from playing Rogue right now, and maybe it's actually way harder than I thought with other classes. But yeah, for now, hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what your thoughts are about the PTR. Maybe you have played it yourself, or you have seen some other people and their opinions. Would be quite curious about that. And hope you liked this video. See you guys next time.